Hi, I'm Justin from Oclef. I wanted to talk in this video about ways you can encourage creativity when practicing a piece and ways that will teach students to make their own arrangements of that piece. Rather than repeat something the same exact way 4 times in a row, which, if you do it too many times, gets a little bit wearisome, sometimes it's fun to have students add their own flourishes to pieces. And the piece that I'd like to show you as an example of doing this is this piece by Ferdinand Bayer, which in the Faber and Faber collection is called In an Old Castle. And this piece starts with a really simple texture. It's in an A minor 5 finger scale. So immediately you want the students to be aware of that. And the left hand is doubling the right hand. Once a student has sight read the first couple lines of this, once they feel comfortable more or less with the notes and rhythms, you can have them play around with the music. The simplest way of doing this would just be to transfer the notes to a different octave, to have them experiment putting the hands maybe 2 octaves apart, something like that, to explore the very lowest registers of the piano and the very highest registers of the piano. So they can explore which registers they like the most, what kind of spacings feel different and unusual to them. Another thing you might do is to change this to the major mode. So you could change the C to a C sharp. You could teach them about major 5 finger scales. Students usually have a good time with that. And finally, the last way you can sort of adjust this is to experiment with the hands being different intervals apart from one another. Rather than starting on the same note, being an octave, you could ask the student to start the left hand on F and see what that sounds like when the hands are a third apart from each other. Or perhaps on C, so that they're a sixth apart from each other. And when I teach it this way, I let the student actually decide which intervals they do first. And I don't try to do things that are always academically correct. For instance, I think it's really interesting to try the hands maybe perfect fifths apart from each other. Sometimes kids really like that kind of sound. You can also encourage them to try really dissonant sounds. Maybe the left hand starting on B. And they'll all wince and think it sounds terrible, and it's a really great opportunity to explain to them what consonance is, what dissonance is, what kinds of intervals go well together, what kinds of intervals sound like they clash with one another. And it's a really organic and creative way of introducing these concepts into their lessons and letting them take some creative liberties with the piece. Um, Also, it gives you the added benefit that you're repeating the piece many, many different times, but you're always having to think when you repeat it. So you're never just mindlessly repeating the same thing over and over again, but by making these adjustments, you're having to look at it afresh. So it keeps your attention always really on point, even if you are repeating the same thing many times over. And so maybe if you found this interesting, you could take this idea into your lessons. What are ways that we can play around with the notes in our pieces and get to have a better understanding not only of the piece in itself, but of music in general? Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a comment below. As always, it would be great to get your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.